There are mornings when you wake up next to someone and feel certain you know them completely. Sarah would brew coffee while humming old songs, and I would watch her move through our kitchen, like she belonged there, like we belonged together. 4 years of marriage, and we still held hands every night before falling asleep. I never thought a single conversation could end everything we built. Little did I know the woman I loved was about to choose her sister over our future. Before we get into what happened, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Because what happened next taught me the hardest lesson about love and boundaries. Let me tell you how it all fell apart. It started on a Tuesday evening in late March. Sarah sat across from me at our dining table, her hands trembling slightly as she wrapped them around her mug. The sun was setting through our kitchen window, casting long shadows across her face. Something in her expression made my chest tighten. She told me about Amanda and Derek. Her older sister and brother-in-law had been trying to have a baby for 4 years. 5 rounds of in vitro fertilization, each one ending in crushing disappointment. Amanda would call Sarah late at night, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Derek had stopped sleeping, thrown himself into work to avoid the emptiness waiting at home. Sarah's voice cracked when she explained what the doctors had finally told them. Amanda's uterus could not carry a pregnancy to term. Something about the lining scarring from previous attempts, medical terms I did not fully understand. But I understood the conclusion. Amanda and Derek were running out of options. "They're running out of hope," Sarah said quietly. Then she took a deep breath, and I knew whatever came next would change us. "I want to be their surrogate." The words hit me like cold water. I stood up from the table, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "You want to carry your sister's baby?" The question came out sharper than I intended, but I could not hide my shock. Sarah nodded slowly. She started explaining how this was the only way to help Amanda, how her sister had sacrificed so much for their family over the years. Amanda had paid Sarah's college tuition when their father passed away unexpectedly. She had taken care of their mother through cancer treatment, while Sarah was still in graduate school. Amanda had always been there, always putting family first. "I owe her this, Joseph." Sarah's eyes were pleading, desperate for me to understand. I sat back down, trying to organize my thoughts. My mind was racing through all the implications. 9 months of pregnancy would change Sarah's body in ways we could not predict. There were health risks, complications that could arise. And what about the psychological impact of carrying a child for 9 months, only to hand that baby over the moment it was born? "What about us?" I asked. "What about our timeline?" Sarah reached across the table, but I pulled my hand back. "We are still young," she said. "We can wait 1 more year to start our own family. This is just 9 months. Just 9 months." She made it sound so simple, so temporary. But I could see the determination in her eyes, the decision already half made before she even brought it to me. I asked her to give me time to think, to research, to understand what we would be getting into. She agreed, but her voice carried that unmistakable tone of someone who had already decided and was simply waiting for everyone else to catch up. The next 2 weeks felt like living with a stranger. Sarah moved through our home with a distracted air, constantly texting with Amanda, researching surrogacy procedures online. I spent my evenings reading medical journals and testimonials from other couples who had gone through this. What I found terrified me. Statistics on surrogacy showed that 42% of marriages where one spouse served as a surrogate ended in divorce within 3 years. The emotional toll, the physical changes, the shifting dynamics when family members became involved in such an intimate process. It was a minefield. One night, I showed Sarah the research. I had printed out articles, highlighted sections about the risks. She glanced at the papers and pushed them back across the table. "Those are just statistics," she said. "We are different. We are stronger than that." But we were not different. We were just 2 people who loved each other and love alone does not protect you from every storm. A week later, Amanda and Derek came over for dinner. I knew Sarah had orchestrated. It had asked them to come plead their case in person. The moment they walked through our door, I could feel the weight of expectation. Amanda's eyes were red, even before she started talking. She sat on our couch and told us about their fifth failed attempt at in vitro. How she had felt the familiar cramping, had known even before the test that it had not worked. How she had locked herself in the bathroom and screamed into a towel so Derek would not hear her falling apart again. Derek sat next to her, holding her hand, his jaw tight. He was a surgeon, someone who fixed problems for a living, and he could not fix this one. The helplessness in his expression was raw. Amanda turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "You are our only hope. Sarah is our miracle. Please do not take this away from us." I felt like the villain in their story, the cruel husband who would not let his wife perform this beautiful act of love for her suffering sister. But nobody was asking about my suffering. Nobody was asking what this would cost me. After they left, Sarah's mother called. Linda had always been kind to me, had welcomed me into their family with open arms. But that night, her voice was different, strained, almost angry. "Joseph, my baby needs this. Amanda needs this. How can you be so selfish?" The word selfish hit me hard. I tried to explain my concerns, but she cut me off. "A real man supports his wife," she said before hanging up. I sat in our darkened living room, phone still in my hand, and realized I was alone in this. Sarah's entire family had already decided. I was just the obstacle they needed to remove. That night, Sarah and I had our first real fight. I told her I could not support this decision. "I am sorry," I said, "but I just cannot." Her response was immediate and fierce. "This is not about support. It is about control. You want to control what I do with my body." I shook my head. "This is not about control, Sarah. This is about protecting our marriage. About protecting us. My body. My choice," she said, her voice rising. "You do not get to decide this for me." "But this affects us," I argued. "This is our marriage, not just your body." She looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Cold. Resolved. "I am doing this with or without your blessing." Those words felt like a knife. I am doing this. Not we are considering this. Not let us decide together. She had made her choice, and I was not part of it. We slept on opposite sides of the bed that night, both of us turned away from each other. I stared at the wall until dawn, understanding that something fundamental had broken between us. The following week, Sarah started the medical process. I discovered this by accident, seeing appointments on her phone calendar. Fertility clinic visits scheduled with Amanda and Derek. She had not mentioned any of it. When I confronted her, she did not apologize. "I told you I would do this," she said simply. "You told me you wanted to discuss it," I shot back. "Not that you had already started." "I discussed it with you," she said. "You just did not like my decision." The distinction she was making felt cruel. Yes, we had talked. But talking is not the same as deciding together. She had informed me of her choice, not included me in making it. Boundaries started forming in our home. Sarah moved into the guest bedroom, claiming she needed space to focus on the preparation. We stopped eating dinner together. Our morning coffee ritual disappeared. The small intimacies that had defined our marriage evaporated one by one. I suggested marriage counseling. Sarah refused. "There is nothing to fix," she said. "You just need to accept this." But I could not accept it. I could not accept being erased from major decisions. I could not accept becoming secondary in my own marriage. 6 weeks after our first conversation, Sarah came home and made an announcement. She did not sit me down gently or choose a private moment. She just said it while putting away groceries. It worked. I am pregnant. There was no joy in her voice. just a flat statement of fact. Within an hour, Amanda and Derek arrived. They burst through our door crying and hugging Sarah. Derek lifted her off the ground, spinning her around. Amanda sobbed into Sarah's shoulder, saying thank you, over and over. I stood in the hallway watching this celebration happen in my home, feeling like a ghost. Amanda eventually noticed me and crossed the room to hug me. "Thank you for letting her do this," she whispered. I did not correct her. I did not say that I had not let Sarah do anything, that she had simply done it regardless of how I felt. What would have been the point? The weeks that followed were the loneliest of my life. Sarah became consumed with the pregnancy. She had a group chat with Amanda that seemed to ping constantly. Every decision, from what she ate to what she wore, was discussed with her sister first. Derek started driving Sarah to her prenatal appointments. Not because I refused, but because Sarah never invited me. They would leave together in the morning, and Sarah would return hours later with updates she had already shared with Amanda. I was being erased from my own marriage, one small exclusion at a time. Then came the night that shattered what little remained. I came home from work to find Derek in our guest bedroom, painting the walls a soft blue. Drop cloths covered the floor. Baby furniture instructions lay scattered nearby. "What are you doing?" I asked, though the answer was obvious. Derek looked up, paintbrush in hand. "We are making a nursery here so Sarah can rest when she needs to." "Did not she tell you? This is my house?" I said, hearing how my voice shook. Derek's expression remained calm. Sarah agreed. "The baby needs a space." "That is not your baby to claim space for here," I snapped. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her small baby bump just visible under her shirt. Her face was flushed with anger. "Derek is family. You are being unreasonable." Something inside me went very quiet. Reasonable. She thought wanting boundaries in my own home was unreasonable. She thought watching another man paint a nursery for another couple's baby in my house should be something I accepted without question. I looked at my wife, this woman I had loved and built a life with, and realized she was already gone. The Sarah I married would never have dismissed me like this, would never have chosen everyone else's feelings over mine at every single turn. That night, I packed a bag and drove to my friend Tom's apartment. I did not tell Sarah I was leaving. I just left. Tom opened his door at 11:30 at night, took one look at my face, and stepped aside to let me in. I stayed on his couch for 3 days, trying to make sense of what my marriage had become. Tom had been my best friend since college. He knew Sarah had been at our wedding, had celebrated every milestone with us. So when he said what he said on the third morning, I listened. "You warned her," Tom said over coffee. "She chose. Now you choose yourself." It sounded so simple when he put it that way. But choosing myself meant admitting my marriage was over. It meant accepting that love alone could not bridge the canyon that had opened between Sarah and me. I called a divorce lawyer that afternoon. Not in anger or spite, but with the heavy clarity that comes from finally accepting reality. I could not save someone who did not want to be saved. I could not be a priority for someone who had made me an afterthought. The lawyer was a woman named Patricia, mid-50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened to my story without judgment and then asked a single question. "Do you want to try to save this marriage, or do you want to save yourself?" "I want to save myself," I answered. A week later, I returned to our house while Sarah was at a prenatal appointment. I moved through rooms that no longer felt like home, packing my belongings into boxes. Clothes, books, the few pieces of furniture I had brought into the marriage. I left behind everything we had bought together. On the kitchen table, I placed the divorce papers Patricia had prepared. Next to them, I left a short letter. Just a few lines. "You made your choice. Now I am making mine. I wish you and your sister's family well, but I will not be part of it." I took one last look at the house we had filled with so many hopeful plans. Then I walked out the door. The relief I felt was almost painful. Like setting down a weight I had been carrying so long, I had forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. Sarah called me 37 times that evening. I know, because I counted. The voicemails started desperate and crying, then shifted to angry, then back to pleading. How can you abandon me when I am pregnant? One message demanded. I responded once, via text. You are not pregnant with our child. You made that very clear. Then I blocked her number. It was not cruelty. It was self-preservation. Linda called next, screaming at me through the phone. You are a coward. A real man would support his wife. I kept my voice steady. A real wife would have respected her husband's boundaries. She hung up on me. Amanda reached out too, asking to meet for coffee. I agreed, curious what she could possibly say that would change anything. We sat in a busy cafe, the noise of other people's conversations providing a strange comfort. Sarah is doing this for me, Amanda said. Can you not see how selfless she is? I looked at her, this woman whose happiness had cost me my marriage. Selfless to you, I said. Selfish to me. She chose to save your marriage by destroying ours. Amanda's face went pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. There was nothing she could say, because we both knew it was true. Even Derek tried. He sent me a long email explaining how they would compensate me financially for my understanding and sacrifice. As if this was about money. As if any amount could make up for what had been taken from me. I deleted the email without finishing it. 4 months into Sarah's pregnancy, she showed up at my office. Security called to ask if I wanted her escorted out. I said no, and went down to meet her in the lobby. Her belly was prominent, now impossible to ignore. She was crying, mascara running down her cheeks, and every person in that lobby was staring at us. Please, Joseph, she said loudly. I am begging you. Do not leave me. I guided her to a private conference room away from the audience she had created. Once the door closed, she grabbed my hands. I made a mistake. I should have listened to you. But I cannot undo this now. Please stay. You are 4 months pregnant with someone else's baby, I said quietly. You think I can just forget how you disrespected me? How you chose everyone's opinion over mine at every turn? I will make it up to you, she promised. After this, we will have our own children. Everything will go back to normal. I pulled my hands away. I do not trust you anymore, Sarah. You showed me exactly who you are when your family asks you to choose. And you will never choose me. I love you, she cried. Love without respect is worthless, I said. And you lost my respect the moment you told me my feelings did not matter. I left her sitting in that conference room, shoulders shaking with sobs. It was the last time I saw Sarah in person. The last time I looked at the woman I used to love and felt anything beyond sad acceptance. A month later, the divorce was finalized. Sarah did not contest anything. She signed where Patricia told her to sign, took nothing beyond what was clearly hers, and it was done. I moved into a small apartment near my office. 1-bedroom, high ceilings, big windows that let in morning light. It was not much, but it was mine. Every item in that space was there because I chose it, and that simple fact felt like breathing after nearly drowning. I threw myself into work and got promoted to senior engineer within 2 months. My boss said I had been overlooked for too long, that my recent projects showed leadership potential. Without the constant emotional drain of my failing marriage, I had energy to excel again. I started going to the gym at 6 every morning, rediscovered muscles I had forgotten about, started hiking on weekends with Tom and some guys from work, bought a road bike, and joined a cycling group that met every Saturday. Slowly, piece by piece, I built a life that was entirely my own. No compromises I did not choose. No sacrifices I did not want to make. Just me figuring out who Joseph was when he was not trying to hold together something already broken. Friends I had lost touch with during the worst months of my marriage started reappearing. Game nights, barbecues, simple pleasures I had abandoned trying to fix the unfixable. and gradually the tightness in my chest eased. The anger faded into something quieter. Not forgiveness exactly, but a kind of peace with what had happened. Sarah had made her choice. I had made mine. Both were valid, but they were incompatible. This was not the loud, dramatic kind of victory. There were no cheering crowds or triumphant moments. Just the quiet satisfaction of waking up each morning and recognizing the person in the mirror. The calm of knowing I had chosen self-respect over comfort. The freedom of living according to my own values instead of constantly bending to someone else's. I had won back myself. And that was everything. 6 months after the divorce was final, I heard through mutual friends that Sarah had given birth. A healthy baby girl, 8 pounds and 4 ounces. Amanda and Derek were overjoyed. Sarah had moved back in with her mother for support during postpartum recovery. When I heard the news, I waited for some surge of emotion. Regret, anger, sadness, something. But there was nothing except a distant sense of closure. That chapter was finished. Those people were characters in a story I no longer lived inside. I had started dating again by then. Nothing serious at first, just coffee dates and casual dinners. Remembering how to talk to someone without walking on eggshells. Remembering what it felt like to have my opinions valued. Then I met Jessica at a tech conference in Seattle. She was a data engineer with a sharp sense of humor and an easy laugh. We started talking about machine learning algorithms and ended up in the hotel bar until 2 in the morning. Conversation flowing between work and life and everything in between. When I told her about my divorce months later, when things between us were getting serious, she listened without judgment. Then she asked a question nobody else had. What did you learn? I learned that my choice is absolutely valid, I said. But so is my marriage, my choice. Sarah had every right to decide what to do with her body, and I had every right to decide what I needed in a partnership. Jessica nodded slowly. Boundaries are not selfish, she said. They are necessary. That moment, sitting across from someone who understood that loving another person does not mean erasing yourself, felt like coming home. I learned that you can love someone deeply and still walk away. That staying in a relationship where you are not respected will hollow you out from the inside. That sacrifice only has meaning when it is chosen freely by both people, not demanded by one and resented by the other. My therapist, someone I started seeing a few months after the divorce, helped me understand something crucial. Love is not just about feelings. It is about actions. About choices made every day to prioritize your partner's well-being alongside your own. Sarah had loved me, but she had not chosen me when it mattered, and I deserved to be chosen. People sometimes ask if I regret leaving. Friends who knew us as a couple, who remember how happy we seemed in the beginning. The answer is always no. If I had stayed, I would have become bitter, resentful. I would have looked at that baby and seen the symbol of every time my feelings were dismissed. I would have grown to hate Sarah and probably myself for allowing it. Instead, I walked away while I still had enough self-respect to rebuild. I chose the difficult path of starting over rather than the familiar path of slow destruction. And that choice saved me. I do not carry hatred for Sarah. I do not wish her harm. She did what she felt was right for her sister, for her family. I cannot fault her for that, even if I could not live with it. Sometimes two people who love each other want fundamentally incompatible things. Sometimes there is no villain, just two different sets of values that cannot coexist. The bravery is not in holding on at any cost. The bravery is in recognizing when holding on is actually self-abandonment. In choosing your own well-being, even when everyone around you says you are wrong for doing so. I learned that loving someone includes loving yourself enough to know your limits, to understand that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that setting boundaries is not about building walls, but about creating a foundation strong enough to stand on. Today, I wake up in my apartment, or sometimes at Jessica's place. I make coffee and look out at the city and feel genuinely content. My life is not perfect. There are still hard days and moments of loneliness. But it is authentically mine. Built on choices I made consciously, relationships where I am valued, work that challenges me in good ways. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from someone you love. Because loving yourself has to come first. Not in a selfish way, but in the fundamental way that lets you show up as a whole person in all your relationships. And I finally learned that lesson. So let me ask you, have you ever had to choose between loving someone and loving yourself? Have you ever set a boundary that others called selfish? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I know I am not alone in this struggle. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you find the courage to choose yourself when you need to. Remember, you deserve to be chosen too. Take care of yourselves out there.